So here's the deal. I, 28F, am getting married in November. My fiancé, Daniel, 30M, and I have been together for almost 6 years. He proposed last winter, and ever since then I've been living in this whirlwind of planning, family drama, Pinterest boards, and stress. But through it all, the one constant has been my best friend, Hannah. Hannah and I have known each other since we were 12. We met in gym class when we both managed to trip during dodgeball at the exact same time. Everyone laughed, and somehow we bonded over mutual humiliation. From then on, she was my person. We grew up together, did sleepovers, shared secrets about crushes, went through awkward teenage phases, and even went to the same college. She's basically family. That's why, when she got engaged 3 months ago, I was over the moon for her. I threw her an engagement brunch, helped her brainstorm venues, and we've been talking nonstop about wedding planning. I thought it was going to be such a beautiful season in our lives, us both preparing to marry the guys we love. But then last week, Hannah asked me something that honestly knocked the wind out of me. We were sitting in my living room, sipping coffee like always, when she casually dropped, "Hey, so, have you decided what you're doing with your dress after the wedding?" At first, I thought she was making small talk. I laughed and said, "Honestly, I haven't thought that far. Probably just keep it." She looked right at me and said, totally serious, "Well, would you be open to me borrowing it for my wedding?" I thought she was joking. Like, who asks that? My wedding is literally before hers. Mine is in November, hers is next May. And we're not talking about a pair of earrings or a veil. She was asking for my entire wedding dress. I laughed nervously and said, "Wait, you're serious?" Hannah smiled like it was the most normal request in the world. "Yeah, I mean, why not? Your dress is stunning, and it would save me thousands. You know I'm on a tight budget with everything else, and honestly, it would be so special to share this with you." My stomach dropped. I could feel my hands getting clammy. My wedding dress is, well, it's mine. I spent months finding it. It was the first time in years I felt like a princess, and it's tied to one of the most important days of my life. The idea of anyone else wearing it, especially before I've even walked down the aisle, felt wrong. I hesitated and said, "Hannah, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that. The dress is kind of personal, you know?" Her face changed instantly. She looked shocked, then offended. "Are you serious? You're really going to be that selfish? It's just fabric. You'd rather it sit in your closet gathering dust than help your best friend?" I didn't know what to say. I tried to explain. It's not about the money or dust. It's about the memories attached to it. I want to keep it as my wedding dress. I mean, don't you want your own? Your own moment in a dress that's chosen just for you. She rolled her eyes and muttered, "Not everyone has thousands to waste." I thought, as my best friend, you'd want to help me. I'd do it for you. The guilt hit me like a truck. Maybe she's right. Maybe I am being selfish. But also, is it really selfish to want to keep your wedding dress your own? Before I could even sort through my feelings, she stood up abruptly, grabbed her purse, and said, "Wow, I can't believe you. I thought you were better than this." And she left. Since then, she's barely texted me. When she does, it's curt and cold. I told Daniel about it, and he thinks Hannah is way out of line. But then my mom, who adores Hannah, told me I should just let her borrow it because friendships are worth more than dresses. Now I'm stuck questioning myself. Am I the bad guy here? After Hannah stormed out, I sat in my living room staring at the empty coffee mugs on the table like they were going to give me some kind of answer. My heart was racing, my palms were sweaty, and all I could think was, did I just ruin a 16-year friendship over a dress? The thing about Hannah is that she's not just my best friend. She's woven into the fabric of my life. My mom calls her her other daughter. My dad used to drive us to high school together every morning, joking about which one of us would get married first. Every milestone I've had, graduation, birthdays, breakups, Hannah has been right there. So the silence after she left? It felt deafening. That night, I tossed and turned in bed. Daniel noticed and asked, "Still thinking about Hannah?" I groaned and buried my face in the pillow. "Yes. I don't know, Dan. She made me feel like I'm some kind of monster. Like, maybe I should have just said yes. What harm would it really do?" He propped himself up on one elbow and looked at me like I was speaking another language. "What harm? It's your wedding dress. You spent months finding it. You cried when you put it on for the first time. That's not just a dress, babe. It's your dress. And honestly, asking to borrow it is kind of insane." I winced. Don't call her insane. Fine, he said, softening his tone. But you're not the bad guy here. Don't let her guilt trip you into thinking you are. The next morning, though, I woke up to 3 unread texts. 2 were from Hannah. I can't believe you'd rather keep a piece of fabric than help your best friend. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. The third text was from our mutual friend, Emily. Hey, Hannah told me about the dress thing. I just want to say, I think she's right. You've always been so particular about your stuff. Maybe this is a chance to show her you care more about people than material things. My stomach sank. Emily and I aren't as close as Hannah and I, but we've been in the same friend group since college. She's opinionated, sure, but usually supportive. Seeing her side with Hannah immediately made me feel cornered, like maybe Hannah was already rallying people against me. I didn't reply to any of them right away. Instead, I called my mom. Sweetheart, she said after I explained everything. You know I love that dress on you. You look like an angel in it. But Hannah's been like a second daughter to me for years. If she's really struggling with money, maybe lending her the dress is the compassionate thing to do. It's not like you'll ever wear it again after your wedding. But Mom, I said, my voice cracking, it's my wedding dress. My memories. Doesn't that matter? Of course it matters, she sighed. But sometimes, showing love means making sacrifices. Hannah clearly feels hurt. Do you really want to risk a lifelong friendship over this? That word, sacrifice, stuck with me all day. By the afternoon, I couldn't concentrate on work. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Finally, I texted Hannah. Can we talk about this calmly? I don't want to fight with you. She didn't respond. Instead, I saw her post a photo on Instagram later that night. It was of her and Emily at dinner, smiling with wine glasses in their hands. The caption read, "Grateful for real friends who know the meaning of support." My stomach twisted into knots. Was that about me? It had to be. Daniel saw it too and muttered, "She's taking shots at you now. That's not what a best friend does." I wanted to defend her, but I couldn't. The real breaking point came 2 days later. I was at the bridal boutique for my final fitting. My mom came with me, and for a brief moment, I forgot about all the drama. I slipped into the dress, and when I looked in the mirror, I actually teared up. It was perfect. Every lace detail, every bead, it felt like me. The seamstress was pinning the hem when my mom's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned, and then handed it to me. It's Hannah. My hands trembled as I read the message. If she really loved me, she'd let me borrow it. Guess I know where I stand. I don't know why, but in that moment, something in me snapped. I blurted out, "I'm not lending her this dress, Mom. Not now, not ever." Mom looked startled. "Honey, no," I said firmly, surprising even myself. "This is my wedding. My dress. If Hannah can't respect that, maybe she's not the friend I thought she was." I meant it when I said it. But the very next day, Hannah proved she wasn't going to let this go quietly, because she showed up at my apartment. Uninvited. I was curled up on the couch with Daniel, half watching some crime documentary and half scrolling on my phone, when there was a loud knock at the door. Not a friendly knock either, the kind that makes your stomach sink before you even stand up. Daniel looked over at me. Expecting someone? I shook my head, already uneasy. When I opened the door, there she was. Hannah. She didn't even say hi. She just pushed past me into the apartment like she owned the place. She was in sweatpants, her hair pulled up in a messy bun, eyes red like she'd been crying, or maybe raging. Hi to you too," Daniel said dryly from the couch. Hannah ignored him. She stood in the middle of my living room, arms crossed, glaring at me. "So that's it. You've officially decided you're too good of a person to share your dress with me?" Her tone was sharp enough to cut glass. I shut the door and took a cautious step toward her. "Hannah, can we not do this right now? You can't just show up uninvited and start attacking me." She laughed bitterly. "Uninvited? I thought I was your best friend. Do best friends need an invitation?" Daniel stood up. "You're being really disrespectful, Hannah. Maybe you should leave." Her eyes narrowed at him. "Of course you'd take her side. You've been turning her against me since day one." I put up my hands. "Whoa, stop. No one's turning me against anyone. This is between you and me, not Daniel. And honestly, you're making it worse by showing up like this." She scoffed. "Making it worse? You've already destroyed our friendship. Over a dress. A stupid, overpriced piece of fabric that you'll wear once and shove into a box. Do you hear yourself? Do you know how shallow that sounds?" Her words stung, but I forced myself to stay calm. It's not about the fabric. It's about what it represents. My wedding is supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. I don't want to share that dress. I want it to be mine. Hannah's voice cracked. And I want to feel beautiful too. But I can't afford some designer gown. I thought you of all people would understand. Instead, you're acting like I'm asking you for your kidney. Because you're asking me for something deeply personal. I shot back, louder than I intended. This isn't just a dress. It's my dress. My memories. My day. Why can't you understand that? The room went silent. My chest was heaving, my hands trembling. For a second, Hannah just stared at me. Then her face hardened. You've changed. You think you're better than me now? Just because you're marrying Daniel and you've got money to blow on a stupid dress. You're not the girl I grew up with. Daniel stepped forward. Okay, enough. You don't get to come in here and insult her in her own home. You need to leave. Hannah turned on him, her voice dripping venom. You'd love that, wouldn't you? You've always hated how close we are. Well, congrats. You finally drove a wedge between us. I could feel tears burning in my eyes. Hannah, stop. This isn't Daniel's fault. This is about boundaries. I've said no, and you won't accept it. That's the real wedge. For the first time, she faltered. Her lip trembled, and for a moment she looked small, like the girl I met in middle school. So that's it. 16 years of friendship, and you're willing to throw it all away over a dress. The guilt hit me like a sucker punch. I almost caved. I almost said, fine, take it, just please don't leave me. But then I remembered standing in the bridal shop, seeing myself in the mirror, feeling that rush of joy. That moment was mine, and I wasn't going to let guilt take it away. I swallowed hard. I'm not throwing anything away. You are. By making this into an ultimatum. Her eyes filled with tears, but instead of softening, her face twisted with anger. She grabbed her purse off the couch and hissed, "You're going to regret this." Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. The silence after was crushing. Daniel put his arm around me, but I couldn't stop shaking. "Hey," he whispered, "you did the right thing." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But later that night, when I finally got the courage to check my phone, I saw Hannah had posted again on Instagram. This time, it wasn't a vague caption. It was a full-blown rant about me. When I say Hannah went public, I mean she really went for the jugular. Her post was a black square with white text on it. Dramatic, like the kind of thing people post when they're exposing someone. The caption said, "Imagine thinking your friendship is worth less than a piece of fabric. Imagine calling someone your sister for 16 years and then refusing to help them on the most important day of their life. I always thought true friends supported each other. Guess I was wrong." No names. No tags. But she didn't need to tag me. Everyone in our circle knew exactly who she was talking about. The comments started rolling in almost immediately. I sat there in bed, scrolling with this sick feeling in my stomach as I read. Wait, who would do that to you? That's so messed up. Some people let weddings go to their heads, SMH. You deserve better friends. And then the worst one. I bet I know who you're talking about, followed by a wink emoji. I wanted to crawl under the covers and never come out. Daniel tried to take my phone away, saying, "Stop torturing yourself." But I couldn't. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash I couldn't look away from. The next morning, I woke up to a group chat blowing up. It was the one with our college friend group. Me, Hannah, Emily, plus a few others. Someone had clearly brought the Instagram post up because the chat was full of messages like, "Hannah, that's awful. I can't believe she'd do that. Honestly, I'd be hurt too. What's the big deal about sharing a dress? Yeah, if my best friend needed it, I'd hand it over without thinking twice." It was like watching people line up to take Hannah's side. No one outright said my name, but it didn't matter. I knew. They knew. My hands shook as I typed out a message. For the record, this isn't about fabric. It's about boundaries. I love Hannah, but my wedding dress is mine. I'm allowed to say no without being vilified. Then I stared at the screen, debating if I should send it. Daniel leaned over and gently pressed my hand. "Do you really think they'll hear you right now? They've already picked a side." I deleted the message. That day, I avoided social media entirely. I went to work, tried to focus, but my mind kept drifting. What if Hannah was right? What if everyone saw me as selfish now? I imagined whispers at the wedding, people side-eyeing me, thinking I'd betrayed my best friend. At lunch, I called my older sister, Rachel. She's blunt to a fault, but I needed someone outside the drama. Okay, let me get this straight, she said after I unloaded everything. Your friend asked to borrow your wedding dress, and when you said no, she turned it into World War III. Basically, I sighed. Rachel snorted. That's ridiculous. No sane person would ask that in the first place. You're not the bad guy, little sis. But everyone else thinks I am, I whispered. Who cares what Emily or whoever thinks? Do they pay your bills? Are they marrying you? No, you don't owe anyone your dress. Her words gave me a little comfort, but the pit in my stomach didn't go away. That evening, I finally caved and texted Hannah. Please stop posting about me. Can we talk like adults? Her response came quickly. Funny how you only want to talk when people are finally seeing the truth about you. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Truth. I muttered out loud. What truth? Daniel rubbed my back. She's twisting the narrative. Don't let her drag you into her drama. But here's the thing. Hannah wasn't done dragging me. Because the next day, I got a call from my aunt. She'd heard about the drama. My aunt, who doesn't even use Instagram. Apparently, Hannah had reached out to her directly. When my phone lit up with my Aunt Carol's name, I almost didn't answer. She's my mom's older sister, the kind of woman who loves family gossip and always has something to say about everyone's business. But curiosity got the better of me. Hi, Aunt Carol, I said cautiously. She didn't even greet me back. She dove straight in. I just got off the phone with that poor girl Hannah. What on earth is going on? My heart stopped. Wait, you talked to Hannah? How? She called me. Carol huffed, like it was the most normal thing in the world. She said she didn't know who else to turn to. She sounded absolutely heartbroken, dear. Said you won't let her borrow your wedding dress, and she feels abandoned by her best friend. I told her you must have your reasons. But goodness, you know how important friendship is. Can't you just let her have it? I pressed my palm to my forehead, pacing around the apartment. Aunt Carol, this is between me and Hannah. Why would she even call you? That's crossing a line. Carol sighed dramatically. Sweetheart, she's desperate. And you know me, I can't stand to see young women fighting over something so silly. If a dress is the only thing standing in the way of peace, maybe this is a chance for you to be the bigger person. I bit my tongue, because what I really wanted to say was, this is exactly why I didn't want this dragged into the family. When I hung up, Daniel was watching me with narrowed eyes. She called your aunt? What's next, your dentist? Your childhood piano teacher? I threw my hands up. I don't know, but apparently everyone's getting involved now. Sure enough, 2 hours later, my mom called again. Honey, I just talked to Carol. She said Hannah reached out. Look, I know you're upset, but this is really blowing up. Maybe you should reconsider before it ruins everything. Before it ruins everything? I repeated, my voice cracking. Mom, it's already ruining everything. Hannah is turning my friends and family against me over a dress. A dress. There was a long silence on the line before my mom said quietly, I just don't want to see you lose her. She's like another daughter to me. I sank onto the edge of the bed, tears spilling down my cheeks. What about me? Don't you care that I feel attacked and disrespected? Of course I care, Mom said gently. But friendships like yours don't come around often. If this is the hill she wants to die on, maybe let her win. The dress won't matter in 10 years, but losing her might. I hung up before I could say something I'd regret. Daniel sat next to me and took my hands. You don't owe Hannah your dress. Or your sanity. Your mom means well, but she's wrong on this one. I wanted to believe him. But that night, lying awake, all I could hear in my head were my mom's words. The dress won't matter in 10 years, but losing her might. The next day, I tried to focus on work again, but my phone kept buzzing with texts from random cousins I'd barely talked to. Each one was some version of, Hey, I heard about you and Hannah. Is it true you won't let her borrow your dress? Why not? She seems really upset. I wanted to scream. By Thursday, I'd had enough. I texted Hannah. Stop dragging my family into this. I'm asking you nicely. If you have an issue with me, take it up with me. Her reply was immediate. I wouldn't have to talk to your family if you'd just stop being selfish. You've left me no choice. That line chilled me to the bone. No choice. Daniel read it over my shoulder and muttered, That sounds like a threat. And in a way it was. Because the very next day, Hannah showed up again. But this time, she didn't come alone. It was Friday evening, and I was just about to order takeout with Daniel when there was another knock at the door. My stomach dropped immediately. Don't answer it, Daniel muttered, already knowing who it probably was. But the knocking came again, louder this time. Reluctantly, I walked over and opened the door. And there she was, Hannah. But she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was Emily, arms crossed, glaring at me like I'd personally kicked her puppy. My heart sank. Seriously? I asked, keeping my hand on the doorframe. Hannah pushed past me like last time, but now Emily trailed in behind her. Daniel immediately stood up from the couch, tension radiating off him. What is this? I asked, voice shaking. Emily spoke first. We're here because Hannah deserves better than the way you've been treating her. She's been crying nonstop. She can't afford a dress, and you're sitting here with one in your closet that you'll never wear again. Do you know how cruel that looks? I blinked at her, stunned. Cruel? For wanting to wear my own wedding dress at my wedding? How is that cruel? Hannah jumped in, her voice trembling. Because you're supposed to be my best friend. You're supposed to want to help me. Instead, you've humiliated me in front of everyone. People are asking me what I did wrong, and all I can say is that the girl I thought was my sister would rather hoard a dress than be there for me. Daniel cut in, his tone firm. Hannah, enough. You've twisted this whole thing into some victim story. She doesn't owe you her dress. The fact that you brought backup to our home says everything. Emily snapped. Don't talk to her like that. You've been poisoning her against Hannah from the start. Everyone can see it. I felt like my head was spinning. Emily, you don't even know the full story. Oh, I know enough, Emily interrupted. You've changed. You used to be generous, down to earth. Now you're selfish, materialistic, and completely under his thumb. She pointed at Daniel like he was the villain in all this. Daniel bristled. Excuse me. I held up my hands, trying to calm the storm brewing in my own living room. Stop. Just stop. You're twisting this into something it's not. I didn't suddenly become selfish. I just said no to something that made me uncomfortable. That's allowed. Emily scoffed. Uncomfortable. Or selfish. Something inside me snapped. My voice came out sharper than I intended. You don't get to redefine my boundaries. This is about me, my wedding, my dress. Not you. Not Hannah. Me. And I don't owe either of you an explanation beyond that. The room went dead silent. Hannah's face crumpled like I'd slapped her. So this is really it? You'd rather throw away 16 years than help me? My chest ached, but I stood firm. I'm not throwing anything away. You are. Because you're making this dress the price of our friendship, and that's not fair. Hannah's tears spilled over. Emily put an arm around her and shot me a glare sharp enough to kill. Fine. If that's how you feel, don't expect us at your wedding. Daniel muttered under his breath. Promise, but I shot him a look to stay quiet. Hannah shook her head, sobbing. You'll regret this. One day, you'll realize you pushed away the one person who's always been there for you. And with that, they left, slamming the door so hard I thought the frame would crack. I stood there frozen, heart pounding, tears blurring my vision. Daniel wrapped his arms around me, whispering, You don't need them. You've got me. You've got family who love you. Real friends will understand. But as much as I wanted to believe him, all I could think about was the gaping hole Hannah's absence would leave. She wasn't just a bridesmaid. She was supposed to be my maid of honor. And now, it felt like my entire wedding party was unraveling. Because an hour later, I got a text from another bridesmaid. Hey, I don't want to get in the middle of things, but if Hannah's not going to be there, I don't feel comfortable standing up with you either. Sorry. My hands shook so badly I dropped the phone. When I read that text from my bridesmaid, my stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to be sick. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the words over and over. If Hannah's not going to be there, I don't feel comfortable standing up with you either. Sorry. Sorry. That one word burned. Like it made everything better. Daniel crouched in front of me, gently prying the phone from my hands. Don't do this to yourself. Anyone who would abandon you over this wasn't really your friend to begin with. But it didn't feel that simple. This was supposed to be the happiest season of my life. Dress fittings, cake tastings, laughing with my bridesmaids about shoes and flowers. And instead, it felt like every day was a new battle. I didn't reply to the text. I couldn't. I just curled up against Daniel and whispered, What if nobody shows up for me? What if the whole wedding falls apart? He stroked my hair, whispering, Then we'll still get married. That's what matters. Not the dress, not the drama. Just us. I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't shake the image of walking down the aisle with empty rows of seats where my friends should have been. The next morning, I woke up to even more fallout. 2 more bridesmaids had texted me. both variations of the same theme. They didn't want to choose sides but felt caught in the middle and couldn't be part of the wedding anymore. In less than 24 hours, I went from 6 bridesmaids to 3. I called Rachel, my sister, in tears. They're all dropping out. I don't even know if I have a wedding party anymore. Her voice was firm. Listen to me. Anyone who abandons you over Hannah was never in your corner to begin with. I'll stand by you, no matter what. Even if I'm the only one up there with you, you'll still be beautiful. You'll still be married. Her words steadied me for a moment, but the hurt lingered. It wasn't just about numbers. It was about trust. How could people I'd laughed with, traveled with, shared secrets with, all turn their backs so fast? That weekend, Daniel and I had dinner with his parents. His mom could see the stress written all over my face. You're losing weight, she said, frowning. This Hannah situation has gone too far. Daniel's dad muttered. Sounds like this girl needs to be cut out of your life permanently. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. We've talked about it, but it's complicated. His mom gave me a sympathetic smile. Sweetheart, complicated or not, you need to protect your peace. This is supposed to be your time. Don't let her ruin it. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside I was a storm. Because the truth was, I missed Hannah. I hated what she was doing, hated the manipulation and the gossip, but a part of me still longed for the girl who'd been there through everything. The girl who held my hand when my grandpa died, who brought me soup when I was sick, who once stayed up all night helping me finish a college paper. Was that girl gone? Or had I killed our friendship by saying no? Sunday night, Daniel found me sitting on the bathroom floor, scrolling through old photos of Hannah and me. Us in prom dresses, us at the beach, us crying with laughter in a dingy college dorm. Babe, he said softly, crouching down beside me. You can grieve her, but you can't keep letting her hurt you. I don't know how to stop, I whispered. And then, as if the universe was determined to keep twisting the knife, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from an unknown number. If you won't give her the dress, maybe you don't deserve to wear it either. My blood ran cold. When I read that message, if you won't give her the dress, maybe you don't deserve to wear it either, I felt my entire body go cold. For a few seconds I just sat there on the bathroom floor, staring at the screen, my heart thudding in my ears. I read it again and again, half convinced my eyes were playing tricks on me. But the words didn't change. Daniel, I whispered, my voice shaking. You need to see this. He frowned as I handed him the phone. His jaw tightened instantly. What the? Who sent this? It's an unknown number, I said, hugging my knees to my chest. Do you think it's her? Daniel's face darkened. It sure sounds like it. I shook my head violently. No, Hannah wouldn't. She can be manipulative, but she's not. She's not dangerous. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Because hadn't she already crossed so many lines? Showing up at my apartment uninvited. Bringing Emily to gang up on me. Calling my aunt. Dragging my family into it. Blasting me on social media. Every time I thought she'd gone as far as she could, she pushed it further. What if this was just the next step? Daniel crouched beside me, putting a hand on my shoulder. We need to take this seriously. Whoever sent this is threatening to mess with your dress. We should call the boutique and ask them to keep it locked up until closer to the wedding. Panic rose in my throat. What if they already did something to it? What if? He cut me off gently. Hey, breathe. The dress is fine. It's safe at the shop, remember? I nodded, trying to steady my breathing, but I couldn't stop picturing Hannah, or Emily, or someone else from that group, sneaking into the boutique at night, scissors in hand, tearing the lace to shreds. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined walking into the bridal shop and finding my dress destroyed. The next morning, I called the boutique. My voice shook as I explained the situation vaguely. I didn't mention names, just said I'd received a strange message and wanted to confirm my dress was secure. The owner, a sweet older woman named Sandra, reassured me. Don't you worry, sweetheart. Your dress is safe in our back room. Nobody gets in without us knowing. We'll keep it under lock and key until your big day. Her calm tone should have soothed me, but it didn't. I thanked her anyway and hung up, still restless. That afternoon, I decided to confront Hannah. Not in person, I wasn't ready for that, but through text. Hannah, someone just sent me a threatening message about my dress. If it was you, this has gone too far. If it wasn't you, then please, tell me, because I don't know who else would do this. Minutes ticked by like hours. Finally, she replied. Are you seriously accusing me of threatening you? Wow. You really think I'm some kind of monster, don't you? I stared at the message, biting my lip. I just want to know if it was you. Please be honest. Her reply came quickly this time. No, it wasn't me. I may be hurt, but I would never stoop that low. If someone is threatening you, maybe it's karma for how you've treated me. My hands trembled as I read that last line. Maybe it wasn't a direct admission, but it wasn't denial either. When I showed Daniel, he muttered, "Classic Hannah. Deflect and guilt trip. She's not going to admit it even if it was her." The rest of the week was a blur of anxiety. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Every time I thought about the wedding, instead of excitement, I felt dread. Rachel called me one night, and I finally broke down. What if my dress isn't safe? What if someone really does something to it? This whole wedding is turning into a nightmare. Then you buy another dress, Rachel said bluntly. Problem solved. It's not that simple. I snapped. That dress is mine. I spent months finding it. I saved for it. I cried when I tried it on. I don't just want a dress. I want that dress. She softened her tone. I get it. But listen, even if that dress disappeared tomorrow, you'd still have Daniel. You'd still have the wedding. The dress doesn't define the marriage. Her words made sense, but they didn't ease the gnawing fear in my gut. 2 days later, I decided to swing by the boutique myself. Sandra greeted me warmly, and when she brought out the dress, I felt tears prick my eyes. It was perfect, untouched, still as breathtaking as the day I chose it. For a moment, relief washed over me. But then I noticed something. On the hem, near the back, there was a faint smudge. Barely noticeable, like someone's fingers had grazed it after touching something dark. Was this here before? I asked, my voice shaking. Sandra squinted, then frowned. Could just be dust from handling. We'll clean it before the wedding, don't worry. But as I ran my hand over the spot, unease settled heavy in my stomach. What if it wasn't dust? What if someone had tried to mess with it already? That night, I told Daniel what I'd seen. He tried to reassure me, but I could see the worry in his eyes too. Maybe we should keep the dress here at the apartment, he suggested. That way we know it's safe. No, I said quickly. If someone sent that message, and if it really was Hannah or one of her friends, what if they came here? What if they tried to break in? The thought made me shiver. The more I thought about it, the more paranoid I became. Every sound outside the window made me jump. Every car slowing down near our building made my heart race. The next weekend, I had my bridal shower. I'd been looking forward to it for months, but the second I walked into the restaurant, I could feel the tension. 2 seats were empty, Hannah's and Emily's. No surprise there. But the air felt heavy. People whispered. People stared. At one point, my cousin pulled me aside and whispered, "So, is it true you refused to help Hannah with her wedding? Everyone's talking about it." I felt like screaming. Instead, I forced a smile and said, "This is my bridal shower. Can we please not talk about that right now?" But of course, the damage was already done. I spent the entire event smiling through gritted teeth, terrified someone would bring up the dress again. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the floor surrounded by wrapping paper and gifts, tears streaming down my face. Daniel knelt beside me, holding my face in his hands. "Listen to me. You're stronger than this. You're going to walk down that aisle in your dress, no matter what. And if anyone tries to stop you, they'll have to go through me first." I wanted to cling to that promise. But in the pit of my stomach, I couldn't shake the feeling that Hannah, or someone close to her, wasn't finished yet. And I was right. Because the very next morning, I got another anonymous text. This one wasn't about the dress. It was about me. "Hope you're ready. Everyone will know the truth about who you really are before your wedding day." When that second anonymous text came through, "Hope you're ready. Everyone will know the truth about who you really are before your wedding day." I felt my stomach flip upside down. What truth? What could they possibly mean? I sat on the couch clutching my phone, staring at the words so long the screen went dim. My mind spun with possibilities. Was Hannah going to spread lies about me? Dig up some embarrassing story from high school? Tell people something out of context that would make me look horrible? Daniel came in from the kitchen with 2 mugs of tea, saw my face, and froze. "What now?" I showed him the message. His eyes narrowed instantly. "Okay, that's it. We're going to the police." "What?" "No." I shook my head. "They'll just laugh at us. It's a text message. It doesn't prove anything. And what if it isn't Hannah? What if it's one of her friends?" Daniel sat down beside me, pressing the mug into my hands. Who else would be doing this? Think about it. Who else has the motive? I hated how much sense he made. Still, some part of me kept clinging to the idea that Hannah wouldn't cross that line, that she'd stop short of actively trying to ruin me. But then, 3 days later, she proved me wrong. I was at work, hunched over my desk, when my phone buzzed with a flurry of notifications. At first, I ignored them, assuming it was more wedding group chat nonsense. But then I glanced at the screen. Instagram, Twitter, even Facebook, all lighting up with my name. My hands went cold as I opened one of the notifications. It was a post from a fake account. No profile picture, no posts except this one. A long paragraph, ranting about me. She's not the sweet girl everyone thinks she is. She's selfish, materialistic, and treats people like dirt once they're no longer useful to her. Ask her former roommates. Ask her old coworkers. She abandoned her best friend of 16 years over a dress. Imagine how she'll treat her husband when she gets bored. People like her don't change. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My fingers went numb as I scrolled through the comments. Strangers chiming in, people who didn't even know me, parroting Hannah's words. Wow, sounds like a real bridezilla. Classic narcissist energy. Her poor fiancé. My vision blurred with tears. I ducked into the office bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and texted Hannah directly. Was this you? Did you make that account? A few minutes later, she replied. I don't know what you're talking about. I gritted my teeth, typing furiously. Stop lying. You said everyone would know the truth before my wedding. And now there's an account trashing me. Her reply came back almost instantly. Maybe the truth is finally coming out. Doesn't mean it was me. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. The smugness dripping from her words made me want to scream. That night, Daniel found me curled up on the couch, scrolling through the comments on that post like a masochist. Why are you reading that garbage? He demanded, grabbing the phone from me. Because I need to know what people are saying. I cried, snatching it back. What if people believe it? What if this ruins everything? He cupped my face in his hands, forcing me to look at him. Listen to me. Anyone who matters knows the truth. I know the truth. Your family knows the truth. This isn't going to ruin us. But the cracks were already spreading. At work the next day, 2 coworkers whispered when I walked past. One of them gave me this pitying look that made me want to sink into the floor. And then, the invitations started coming back. First one, then another, then 5 more. RSVPs marked declined. People who'd enthusiastically said they'd be there suddenly couldn't make it. Daniel tried to brush it off. People always drop last minute. It's not a big deal. But I could see the pattern. These weren't distant relatives or acquaintances. They were people tied to Hannah. People in our friend group. People she had influence over. And then came the worst blow of all. My maid of honor spot. It was supposed to be Hannah. Obviously that was gone. I had asked Rachel to step in, and she'd agreed. But then one of the remaining bridesmaids texted me. Hey, I think I need to step down too. It just feels weird with all the drama. I don't want to be in the middle of it. That left me with 2 bridesmaids. Out of 6, I sat on the bedroom floor, holding my dress bag against my chest, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. Daniel sat beside me, rubbing my back. We can still do this. Even if it's just us and your sister. We'll still get married. That's what matters. But the weight of it all pressed down on me. My best friend gone. Half my bridal party gone. My reputation in tatters online. And now, the terrifying possibility that Hannah had one last card to play. Because the day after the fake account went live, I got another anonymous message. This one was short. Wait until your wedding day. Everyone will see who you really are. The night before my wedding, I lay awake in the hotel room, listening to the radiator tick and the elevator cables hum, feeling like the whole building was breathing with me. Every time I blinked, that last anonymous message flashed against the back of my eyelids. Wait until your wedding day. Everyone will see who you really are. It didn't even sound like Hannah's voice in my head anymore. It sounded like a clock, counting down to something I couldn't name. Rachel rolled over in the other bed and watched me in the dark. If you keep staring at the ceiling, you're going to burn a hole through it, she murmured. I keep hearing my phone. I whispered, even though it was silent. Like phantom buzzing. She sat up, hair wild, and held out her hand. Then give it to me. Final offer. I'm running interference. No more guesses, no more doom scroll, no more giving strangers your pulse. I hesitated, because surrendering it felt like stripping off armor. Then I exhaled and passed it over. She slid it into her purse and tugged the zipper like sealing a vault. There, she said. The monsters are on my side of the room now. Go to sleep. What if? If something real happens, they can call me, she said. Your only job is to get married. Let me be the bad cop. I didn't think I would sleep. But I did, like a stone dropped into a lake. Morning light spilled across the carpet in buttergold bands. For a second I forgot where I was. Then my chest did that jumpstart thing people always describe in books, and it wasn't a cliché anymore. Today. It was today. Rachel knocked on the bathroom door with her elbow and came in balancing 2 coffees and a folded card. Special delivery, she said, setting them on the vanity. From your almost husband. My hands shook as I opened it. Meet me at the end of the aisle. I'll be the one crying first. He'd drawn a little crooked heart next to his name. I laughed, and the laugh broke into tears, the good kind that wash rather than drown. The bridal suite already smelled like roses and hairspray. The makeup artist, Sierra, greeted me like we were old friends. Close your eyes, deep breath, she said, tapping my cheek with the fluffiest brush in the world. We're painting calm on top of calm. The hairstylist wrapped the base of my ponytail with a strand of my own hair and pinned the veil so gently I barely felt it. One of my remaining bridesmaids, Priya, kept producing little things from her tote like a magician: oil blotting papers, a tiny sewing kit, mints that tasted like winter. At 10, there was a soft knock. Lila, our planner, peeked in with her clipboard. She had that serene energy of someone who has already put out 5 fires and won't tell you until tomorrow. Dress is here, she said. Sandra's assistant just delivered it. There's a note. We gathered around as Rachel unzipped the garment bag. For a heartbeat, I braced for something wrong. A stain, a tear, a cruel note pinned like a thorn. But the gown spilled out, immaculate. Sandra's card hung from the velvet hanger. Steamed twice. Cleaned personally. Wear with joy. S. My throat tightened. The lace looked like frost caught in sunlight. The beading winked and then hid as the fabric moved. We lifted it like a cloud, and I stepped in. The lining was cool against my skin. The zipper rose. The buttons did their tiny ladder up my back. Click, click, click. Rachel's hands shook a little, and she laughed at herself. I need a snack, she said, voice thick. Or a nap. Or both. While Sierra dabbed my lips with color, Lila drifted close to Rachel and murmured something I couldn't quite catch. Rachel nodded. I saw her mouth the words extra pins. Our silly code we made up at the rehearsal for everything is fine, but stay sharp. My stomach fluttered and then settled. Lila's smile was calm as a lake. Timeline is on track, she said. If anything odd happens, I'll be the one to know first. You won't hear about it until after you're married. Promise? I asked. On my best clipboards, she said, solemn as a priest. Dad came for first look photos before the ceremony. When he turned around and saw me, he stopped like he'd walked into a memory. His eyes filled fast. You look like your mother, he said, then ruined the solemnity. Except better, because we all remember the shoulder pads. He pressed his handkerchief into my palm and cleared his throat 3 times like he had a frog lodged there. He offered his arm. The bouquet felt heavier than it looked, a sweet weight of peonies and garden roses, and something green that smelled like a walk after rain. Lila opened the door to the hallway, and the 4 of us, me, Rachel, Dad, and a flower girl who had taken her job of guarding the petals very seriously, walked toward the garden. The air tasted like summer. Guests' voices drifted and braided together into one soft thread. The quartet shifted seamlessly from prelude to processional. The first notes of the song I chose rose and bloomed. I stepped into the light. Rows of white chairs. Faces turned like sunflowers. The aisle ribboning ahead with little vases of tiny blooms hooked to every other chair back. The old oak at the front throwing lacework shadows on the grass. And Daniel at the far end, one hand folded over the other hand lifting to swipe at his cheek as if he couldn't believe himself. My dad whispered, "Steady, kiddo," and we moved. Halfway down, something unclenched in me. I saw my mom in the front row with Rachel sliding in beside her, both of them already dabbing at their eyes. I saw Daniel's mom squeeze his dad's hand. A toddler in the 3rd row gasped, "Princess," in a clear, delighted voice, and his mother shushed him, smiling. A few empty chairs dotted the back where people who believed Hannah's stories had chosen absence. The emptiness pinched and then passed. I felt like a branch laid down a heavy storm. At the altar, Dad kissed my cheek and placed my hand into Daniel's. Daniel's palm trembled. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," I said, and my voice didn't shake. Our officiant was an old friend of my uncle's with a storyteller's cadence. He began with something about love being a garden, not a flash, about tending and seasons, and showing up with water when the day is dry. I knew the words. We'd chosen them with care. But hearing them there felt different, like reading sheet music and then hearing the orchestra for the first time. We were about to start our vows when it happened. "Are you really going to marry her, Daniel?" A voice, too loud, too sharp, ripped through the air. It wasn't a question so much as an accusation dressed like one. The quartet faltered mid-phrase. Heads turned. A bird startled out of the oak and flapped away. I knew before I turned. But I turned anyway. Hannah stood near the back, pale blue dress, hair scraped up, clutch in a white-knuckled hand. Her face had the brittle shine of someone who hadn't slept, a mask of fury over something much sadder. "She abandoned me," she called, stepping into the aisle. 16 years, and she picked a dress over a friend. A dress. Ask her what she said to me. Ask her how she ignored me when I begged for help. She's selfish. She's not who you all think she is. A ripple of discomfort moved through the chairs. Someone sked softly. Someone else said, "Not now," under their breath. My mom reached for Rachel's hand and didn't find it because Rachel was already half standing, eyes locked on the back of the aisle. Lila took a step from the side, palms open, voice low and even. "Ma'am, let's step over here." Hannah shook her head. "No, he deserves to know before he makes a mistake." She jabbed a finger toward Daniel. "If she'll betray me, think what she'll do to you the first time you ask her for anything she doesn't want to give." Daniel's hand tightened painfully around mine and then gentled. He turned, not letting go. His voice, God, his voice, was steady, not big, but it carried. "That's enough," he said. "I know who she is. She's kind and she's loyal, and she told you no, because some things are hers to keep. You can be hurt, and I can be sorry you're hurt, but you don't get to come here today and try to break this with your pain." Silence fell so complete, I heard a petal drop from one of the aisle vases and whisper against the grass. Hannah's face crumpled, rage splintering to something more raw. For one heartbeat, I saw the girl who sang with me off-key in the car and lent me her jacket in a rainstorm and once stayed on the phone with me all night when my grandpa died. Then the moment shuddered. She looked at me, mouth hard. "You'll regret this," she said. It came out small and ugly. She turned, and in turning her clutch slipped, clapped against her thigh, and a slim white envelope fluttered free and landed on the aisle runner. Before I could process it, Emily, 2 rows in, bent, scooped it with practiced speed, and tucked it into her own purse. Her eyes slid to Rachel and skittered away like a bug from light. Lila stepped in. "We're going to head out," she said to Hannah, firm but kind, and with a venue attendant appearing like magic on either side. They guided her and Emily toward the gate. The iron latch clicked. The murmurs rose, then fell. The quartet resumed, soft, careful, as if the music could stitch the air back together. The officiant looked at us with a question in his eyebrows. "Continue," I heard myself say. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone who had decided to stay on a boat through a storm and found her sea legs. "We read our vows." I watched Daniel's hands as he unfolded the paper he'd kept in his pocket. He told me I turned ordinary rooms into home just by forgetting where I put my mug. I told him the world made a different kind of sense when he was standing in it. We both cried and both laughed at ourselves for crying. We slid rings on fingers that have done ordinary things every day and suddenly felt like the most extraordinary hands in the world. "You may kiss," the officiant said. We did, and the cheers rose like birds startled from a field. We recessed to the little room off the garden where couples duck for air, and I exhaled until I felt hollowed out and light. Daniel pressed his forehead to mine. "You did it," he whispered. "You kept your feet." I thought my knees would give, I admitted. "They didn't," he said. "You're a willow." Lila slipped in, cheeks pink. "They're gone," she said. "Security walked them to the lot. Also, your sister asked me to bring you this." She held up the slim, white envelope. Rachel followed on her heels. Eyes bright with fury, she was holding very, very still. "She tried to pocket it," she said, meaning Emily, not Hannah. "I asked for it. She didn't argue. That tells me everything." I took the envelope. The flap wasn't sealed. Inside were 3 glossy photos. My stomach flipped because I knew the subject before I even brought them to focus. The hem of a wedding dress. Not just any hem, mine. The faint smudge I'd noticed during my visit to the boutique last week, circled in red ink. A stray thread annotated with an arrow. A pearl bead shone close enough that the texture of the satin around it looked like a moonscape. On the back of the middle photo, if she won't give it, ruin it. Underneath, a phone number without a name. I had to sit down. The world narrowed to the seam of a chair cushion, to a spot on my dress where the lace pattern repeated like a prayer. I felt anger rise hot and fast, followed by something like grief, then something I didn't have a name for. A quiet recognition that my instincts hadn't been unkindness, they'd been self-preservation. We asked Sandra to review footage Friday, Lila said gently, crouching to my level. After you told me about the messages. She called me an hour ago, but I didn't bring it to you. She recognized a woman who came in and tried to say she was your sister and needed to inspect the hem for a family charm. Sandra didn't let her into the back. Emily, Rachel said, voice flat. Ponytail. Dark blazer. A necklace she wears in all her photos. It's her. I closed my eyes. The word inspect made my skin prickle. So even if Hannah wouldn't cut the dress, she knew, I said. It wasn't a question. Daniel leaned a shoulder against the wall, jaw set. We can file an incident report with the venue and the boutique, he said. We keep the envelope. We keep the stills. If anything else happens, we have a record. But I don't want their names in our mouths for the rest of today. He looked at me. What do you want? I looked at the photos again, then at the ring on my hand, then at the man who had steadied me without turning my life into a courtroom. The answer floated up simple and solid. Document it, I said, and then let's go eat our dinner while it's hot. Rachel nodded like a general. Already emailed myself copies, she said. Already asked Sandra to save the footage. Already told Mom there's nothing to worry about. She softened. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. You wanted peace, I said. That's not a crime. On our way to the reception, Lila stepped aside to whisper to a security guard. I heard the name Marco. I heard the words, do not admit. I heard, thank you. Twice. The ballroom doors opened, and a small cheer met us like a warm wave. We ate food that actually tasted like something, because Lila told the servers to bring ours first. People clinked their glasses. Our best man told a story about Daniel trying to build a bookshelf and ending up with a modern art installation of boards and regret, and Daniel hid his face and laughed until his shoulders shook. Priya made a toast that was half poem, half roast, and ended with, some people collect teacups. She collects people. The good ones stick. She sticks back. After dinner, my dad stood with his hands on the microphone like he wasn't sure whether to sing. He cleared his throat and said, I taught my daughters to be kind. I did not teach them to be doormats. Today I'm proud of both lessons. He blinked hard and added, and I'm proud I didn't fall walking her down the aisle. The room laughed, and he looked relieved, like the laugh steadied him on his feet. Between dances, people I hadn't expected to hear from that night found me with soft eyes and warm hands. My cousin Nora leaned in and whispered, I believe the worst thing I read about you for a minute. I'm sorry. Watching you today snapped me out of it. A colleague from my first job pressed a hug into my shoulders and said, you were always the first person to stay late with me. Don't let anyone call that selfishness. My mom squeezed my fingers under the table while the DJ played the song she and my dad claim as theirs. I told you to compromise, she said quiet. I thought that would save something precious. I didn't realize the precious thing was you. I'm sorry. I know, I said. I know you love her. I love you, she said, voice catching. And love sometimes looks like letting you keep what is yours. I forgot that. Daniel's mom pulled me into a hug that smelled like rosemary and clean linen. Welcome to the side of the family that packs snacks and backup plans, she said. We're very fond of you already. During our first dance, the room fell away again. Daniel's breath hit the side of my neck in a warm rhythm. When she started talking, he murmured, I could feel your heart like a bird. It's calmer now, I said, surprised to realize it was true. That's because it's learning the rhythm of ours, he said, and I knew the sentiment was cheesy, and I still wanted to cry because of how fully I felt it. I needed air after a while, the good kind, cleared by laughter and music. I slipped onto the terrace. The night smelled like cooling stone and trimmed hedges, the last sugar of cake on my tongue. Beyond the patio lights, the garden went to pockets of dark, warm, and full of cricket song. The door clicked again, and Rachel came out, shawl around her shoulders. She leaned on the railing. "Security says Emily tried to come back," she said, eyes rolling. "Marco told her the bar down the street has great fries. She finally left." "Of course she did," I said. I waited for the flare of anger and found mostly a quiet, tired space where anger might have been. It's like I ran a marathon wearing a heavy coat and only now realized I could take it off. Rachel's mouth tugged. "Take it off then." She bumped me with her shoulder. "You did good today. You were brave in the boring way, not just the big way." "Brave in the boring way. You didn't chase a scene with a bigger scene," she said. "You told the truth, you didn't reach for claws, and you finished what you came to do." We stood there, the two of us, looking at the little lights along the balustrade. Somewhere inside, someone shouted the chorus of a song like their life depended on it. It made me smile. Back inside, the DJ announced last call. People who had shed their shoes stampeded gracefully toward the dance floor one last time. We cut the cake, lemon with vanilla frosting that left a crescent on Daniel's nose when I reached too far. He dotted my cheek in payback, then kissed it away while everyone awed, like a chorus of kettle whistles. The send-off was sparklers, which made me nervous until I saw how carefully Lila spaced everyone and how many metal buckets of water Marco had arranged. The tiny fires made halos in the photographs, a tunnel of light. As we walked through, people shouted our names, and for once I didn't hear any echo of someone else's opinion inside those syllables. Just joy, bouncing off stone and sky. In the car, someone had tucked a blanket and cold water and a little bag of snacks. "Rachel's doing." I pressed my fingers to the window and watched the venue recede and the road stretch. The driver flicked the radio to something soft. Daniel laced our fingers together and didn't let go until we reached the hotel. In the room, I hung the dress on the padded hanger with something like ceremony. It looked almost like it had a heartbeat. I ran my hand over the skirt, over the place the photos had circled, and felt nothing but smooth fabric and the ghost of the day's breeze. "Still yours," Daniel said, dropping his tie on a chair. "Still mine," I echoed. I washed my face and came out to find him sprawled on the bed, hair mussed, shoes off, looking at me like he couldn't believe we had done the thing we said we would do. I crawled in beside him, and he pulled me in under his arm. "Tomorrow," he said low, "we'll email Lila and Sandra and make sure everything's in a neat folder. We'll send a note to the venue. We'll block the numbers that need blocking. We'll do the boring, brave things." "And tonight?" "Tonight we let our hearts catch up," he said. "Tonight we decide to remember the music louder than the voices." I listened to the city outside the window, far siren, laughter, a motorcycle passing like a sigh. I listened to his breathing line up with mine. I thought about Hannah. Not the version that stood in the aisle with words like knives, but the version from years of sleepovers and movie marathons. There was grief in that thought, but not the choking kind. Loss, yes. A contour I would trace for a while. But the shape of my life no longer bent to it. I thought about the envelope and the photos and the ugly little sentence. I thought about the way Rachel's hand didn't shake when she took it, and the way she said dance, and how choosing joy sometimes feels like disobedience when you've been trained to make yourself smaller. I thought about the people who stayed. Priya fixing my veil when it slipped. Nora apologizing in a whisper. My mom pressing her palm to mine and admitting she had been wrong. My dad crying without apology. Lila's steady hands shepherding the day back toward kindness every time it tried to tilt. And I thought about saying no. How when I said it the first time, it felt like stepping off a cliff. How every time after, it felt more like stepping onto a path I could trust. "Hey," Daniel murmured, drowsy. "Do you remember what you said in your vows? The part about choosing kindness even when it's easier to be anything else?" "I meant it," I said. "I know," he said. "You lived it today." I lay there, eyes open in the dark, and let the last of the dread write itself out of me. I pictured the garden at night, empty now, chairs stacked, petals scattered like a trail no one needed to follow anymore. I pictured the dress hanging there, just fabric, yes, but also a promise to myself that I got to keep what was mine to keep. Tomorrow there would be emails and folders, and maybe awkward conversations with people who needed to choose where they stood. There would be a trip to my mom's for leftover cake. There would be thank you notes and returns and the normal thrum of life. There might even be more noise from people who needed noise like oxygen. But I had something they couldn't reach, the quiet that comes when you stop asking your own heart to give away things it needs. I turned into Daniel's shoulder and felt the soft rise and fall. We did it, I whispered into the darkness. We did, he said, already halfway to sleep. And there, with the city whispering and the dress resting and the evidence tucked away for another day, I finally let go. I had chosen my dress. I had chosen myself. I had chosen this life. For the first time in months, the last words in my head weren't a threat. They were a promise. I'll keep choosing.